Could everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to the order of the agenda tonight? Any requests from public or council? No? All right, very good. We'll go on to number 3, to council communications and announcements. Council? Anything? Council?
Just a couple items regarding our Sister Cities Association in town. They are actually our North Cal, Sister Cities International, is going to be having a conference in Kansas City this summer. And they're looking for youth in which they will sponsor the registration and the boarding for 3 days in Kansas City, July 16th through 19th. If anybody wants to know more about this, they could go to our website, 94070, which is our zip code.org, and there'll be more information on the Sister City website. And secondly, for Sister City, there is they are working with Global Citizens Network and planning a trip later in the fall to one of our sister cities with the name of San Carlos, Nicaragua. And they are meeting in March at the end of this month. And again, there's information, again, at 94070.org if anybody wants to know more about either of these two sister city opportunities. Mm-hmm. And just one other quick item. I've just discovered there was a citizen who was trying to get a hold of me and found out that on our city webpage, even though it listed my email as correctly, the link and the syntax, it was going into nowhere land. So if anybody sent me an email on the city webpage and hasn't heard back from me during the first 3 months of office, I apologize. But it is fixed now. If you click on it, it'll go directly to Outlook, and I'll get your email. So thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Councilmember Ahmad? No? Vice Mayor Grisilli?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
I have a couple of quick items. I wanted to bring everybody's attention. The new Spring 2008 Recreation Guide is now available. And it offers, activities and classes for all ages, wide variety of interests, including creative arts, dance, special interests, fitness, and sports. Registration for the courses in the guide starts tomorrow, March 11th at 9 a.m. Via the city's recconnect.net website. And secondly, the city also started a new green e-newsletter, and it provides information on the city's green programs and the work on the Climate Protection Challenge. You can visit the city's website and take a look at that as well. All right. Let's move on to number 4, commissions and awards.
Mr. Mayor, I will handle that this evening.
Thank you very much.
Christine Boland, City Clerk. Tonight you have before you consideration of reappointing 2 Traffic and Circulation Commissioners, Jack Baumgarten and Thomas Feldy, to 3-year term, 1 3-year term, ending March 12th, 2011. All the details are contained in your staff report, and the alternatives are listed as well. Thank you.
Very good. Council, is there a motion or a discussion?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to reappoint Mr. Baumgarten and Mr. Feldy to the Traffic and Circulation Commission for a 3-year term ending March 12, 2011.
Second.
Christine?
Councilmember Ahmad?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Mayor Lewis?
Yes. And that moves us to item number 5. And we have several speaker slips tonight for public comment. And this is on persons wishing to address the City Councils on matters not on the posted agenda. And each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. Let me see, I think I have about 5 slips. So first I'd like to have come up, and if I mispronounce your name, please forgive me, Hung Yu Sun. Am I close?
Good evening. Before my talk, I would ask if anybody here need to have some dental work done, such as teeth filling. I have to, and I'd like to share with the news I'm scared to hear. Recently, there are 4 incidents of lead poisoning due to the dental work materials imported from China. I don't have a kid, so I don't have to worry about the lead toys, but I will definitely check with my dentist where the materials are from. You may ask why China again. I would say it's not the fault of the Chinese people, who are also the victims. It's the fault of the communist regime. Unfortunately, those harmful incidents in our everyday life are just reflecting a corner of the iceberg of the communist regime's evilness. Communist China regime does not respect human rights, ignores values of lives, not only of their own Chinese people, but all of you and me. The human rights abuse share the same root reason with poisonous toys and dental work materials. Today I'm here to share with you a historically important opportunity for you to help to save many people's lives. I request your kind support of the Human Rights Torch Relay coming to San Francisco on Saturday, April 5th. The Human Rights Torch Relay, the HRTR, aims to make Olympics benefit Chinese people by demanding the Chinese regime to keep their promises of improving human rights, which they made in order to win the bid as the host. Your support for HRTR will help to stop the crimes for people who are persecuted by the regime in the name of protecting Olympics, for those Falun Gong practitioners who are persecuted, whose organs are harvested for profits, for the starved survivors in Darfur. How could we be silent? Giving permission to all these crimes to other people will be ultimately be equivalent to agreeing the crimes against all of us. I urge all good people to support HRTR, not because of politics, but to help ourselves. Supporting China's human rights is to support ourselves' safety, benefits, and rights. I have some handouts on HRTR. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next is Ming Hu.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. My name is Ming Hu. I'm a Falun Gong practitioner. I'm here to support the Olympic Human Rights Torch Rally and express my concerns over human rights abuse in China and urge the government to put forward a resolution to support the Human Rights Torch Rally in San Jose and San Francisco. I practice Falun Gong, a peaceful meditation exercise similar to yoga, which has attracted tens of millions of practitioners in China before the Chinese government banned the practice in July 1999. As a result of a popularity of a practice and of the policy of the communist regime of not tolerating a spiritual group, no matter how beneficial it is to society. My mother was a university professor in China. She had a cardiac disease and other illness. She invests a large amount of time and money for medical treatment, but the results were not as she expected. Once she started practicing Falun Gong in 1997, her disease will disappear magically, which gave my mom happiness and relief in following 2 years. From July 1999 to March 2003, after the CCP crackdown on Falun Gong as illegal to entire country, the local police department and the people from street leave committee would call her, try to monitor and track her, and they constantly broke into my mom's home to threaten and abuse her to give up the belief and the practice of the Falun Gong. For a long time, my mother and brother had lived underneath a dreadful and fearful environment. My mom came to the U.S. with me in 2003. Even in such a peaceful country, my mom still took a long time to recover from the shadow of the mental torture from Chinese Communist Party. The ongoing persecution has continued brutally to this day, and what is the most unfortunate is that the Chinese government is using the 2008 Beijing Olympic as a pretext to escalate the suppression of Chinese people and the persecution of groups such as Falun Gong, Christians, Muslims, Tibetans, even journalists who report true story of China. There will be events held in both San Jose and San Francisco on March 29th and April 5th. We hope to raise awareness of the public of atrocity perpetrated in China and which are being swept aside using the Olympic as excuse. We hope to gain your support in any form and will be forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lin Liu, excuse me.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. My name is Lin Liu, and I live in San Mateo. I'm here tonight to express my concern of the human rights violation crime by Chinese Communist Party under the name of protecting Olympic Games. The Olympic Charter pledges respect of universal fundamental ethical principles. Yet the Chinese Communist Party used Olympic Games as an excuse to escalate the suppression of Chinese people. Amnesty International found out there are more than 12 ways in which China deprives its citizens of basic human rights. The World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong confirmed that the Chinese Communist Party region had been harvesting organs from live Falun Gong practitioners in China. Detained Falun Gong practitioners who went to appeal but didn't give out their names were primary targets of this systematic killing. The crime reached its peak around 2003 and was virtually public knowledge. But now it had turned into a furtive operation. This is an ongoing systematic crime that had been authorized and collaborated within the judicial system of Chinese Communist Party region. After the crimes of the Nazi Holocaust, the world vowed never again. However, now a Holocaust is happening in China. Honorable Mayor and Council members, the Olympics and crimes against humanity cannot coexist in China. Please support this human rights torch rally in San Francisco and San Jose. By this way, you can help to stop the persecution. You can really help China, help Chinese people, and also help our country too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Hugh Liu?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council member. My name is Hui Liu. I'm also a member of Amnesty International at San Mateo chapter, and I'm also here to speak about the human rights violation in China. I think this is a very good opportunity to talk about it now because Beijing is hosting the Olympic in 2008, only a few months from now. And in 1993, Beijing failed the Olympic because they have the gross human rights violation. That's why they failed the Olympic. So in 2001, they promised to the International Olympic Commission a wide range of human rights improvement. But until now, 8 years passed, the human rights is even worse. Just like this few lady just talked about the persecution of, ongoing persecution of Falun Gong practitioners and organ harvesting from live people. In America, we call it organ tourism. Because in America, people have to wait 1 to 7 years to get an organ transplant or die waiting for it. Go to China, only 2 weeks and a lot cheaper. But what they don't know is they got it from live people, and they practice a meditation called Falun Gong. So it's very, very sad. And the Beijing torch, actually we don't call it the Olympic torch, we call it the genocide torch. Because the Chinese government, the communists, they're supporting the Darfur dictatorship to genocide people in Darfur and also in Burma. So we call it genocide torch. They're coming to San Francisco in April. And also don't get mixed up with a human rights torch that is support human rights. They also come in April 5th in San Francisco. We have a rally in Union Square and also we have a 6K run. I hope all the members in America support this human rights torch relay. And it will bring true Olympic to China. Don't get us wrong, we don't against the Olympic at all. But to hold an Olympic, so secret event in a place like China with so much gross human rights violation, I think if we could help the Chinese people just, pass a resolution. We have a draft of resolution that just passed in Palo Alto Human Rights Commission. We could give you a sample of it too. Hopefully you could pass this resolution. It will bring the true Olympic in China, just to help out 1.3 billion people. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And with that, is any other public comment this evening? Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the approval of consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless members of the council, staff, or public request specific items to be removed for separate action. Council, is there any comments?
I'd like to remove item F, please.
Item 6F. Any other requests from staff or public or council to be removed from consent?
And I have a recommendation on minutes changes on B.
And 6B. All right. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve consent calendar items 6A, C, D, E, and G.
Second? Is there a second? Excuse me.
Second.
Christine?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Mayor Lewis?
Yes. And so we will move those to the end of the new business. Is that right? After item 10A. All right, we'll go to reports to council. And I just wanted to say for a report from closed session, we met in closed session at 6:15 and
direction was given and no action was taken.
great. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll come to 7A, quarterly report on the Belmont San Carlos Fire Department services.
Quarterly report that the fire department will be providing to the city council per the new JPA with the Belmont San Carlos Fire Department. If you have any questions, the fire chief is in the audience to address them.
Great. Is there any questions for the fire chief based on the report that was provided to council? No?
Yes. Actually, there is.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Chief, you were kind enough to send us the minutes from the fire board meeting, and I guess I was curious about a couple of things. First, I apologize. I know we've tried to have a meeting together where I could learn more about the department, so I'll hold some of those questions back. But one of the things that caught me as interesting was you did the retreat or an all-day planning session on January 30th, and there was a SWOT analysis that was done in conjunction with this. 2 points I wanted to bring up. One was titled External Factors or Trends That Will or Might Have a Positive Impact on the Department in the Coming Year. You listed 21 items, of which number 17 was a push to go green. Then the interesting thing is that on the following page, there's external factors or trends that might have a negative impact on the department in the coming year. You listed 30 things, and item number 17 was the push to go green. Can you explain that? I'm just kind of curious. Is there a push to go green? Is there not a push to go green? Is it good? Is it
there
bad?
is a push to go green, and there's a cost that's associated with that. For example, with the larger fleet, the diesels, we're currently making sure that we can burn biodiesel in those vehicles. There's been some cost and a little more maintenance of filter changes, and some of those that go along the line with that. But we feel that that piece is significant because of just taking a position that green is important to the fire department. The other side of that is as we start replacing the fleet with the lighter vehicles, we will go with Priuses or those types of vehicles to show our support in the green initiative. So there's that long-term effect of wanting to do it. We will get to it at some point. It's a negative factor because there is some impact to the budget, and there will be a positive factor because we will be going along with the balance of the city and their position of wanting to be green as much as we can be.
So just in terms of the next quarterly report, if I could request that you add something about what are the green initiatives and what are the price tags associated with it.
Absolutely. Happy to
I'd
do
love
that.
to support the organization, and if there is a cost, we'd love to be able to make certain that it's transparent and everybody understands why.
Any other questions? Councilmember Grocott.
I just wanted to give the chief an opportunity, if he would like, to speak to the meeting tomorrow with the Board of Supervisors. It's a different JPA, but it affects our JPA, if you will.
Yeah, tomorrow is as I stated the last time I was here, the Board of Supervisors were presented with the RFP for the new Advanced Life Support proposal that will start in July of 2009.
At the last meeting last month, the board took a position that they weren't comfortable with all the information that was in that RFP. They did not have enough time to review it, so they spent the last month or so gathering information and facts that they needed in regards to that. And as I spoke the last time, there's really a couple of big issues with that. Was the existing program as we know today, the program that we were doing 10 years ago, and the dispatch piece as being an impact. So we're hoping tomorrow that the Board of Supervisors has kind of listened to some of the things that we've met with them about, and that the RFP will be distributed, that will be in a position that the fire departments in the county will be working with the county and potentially the new provider to do an enhanced level of advanced life support delivery.
Both the chief and I will be attending that meeting tomorrow to follow that issue.
Thank you both very much. And if no other questions, thanks, Chief. Thanks for the report. Appreciate it. And with that, we'll move on to the public hearing. We'll open the public hearing. Item number 8, and that's consideration of adopting ordinance number 1396, amending the San Carlos Municipal Code. Do we have staff presentation on this?
This item has been before the City Council, and so if you have any questions, staff is available.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions for staff?
Be happy to make a motion if there's no questions to adopt the ordinance amending the City of San Carlos.
Public hearing, is there a public hearing involved?
Public hearing. I apologize. Thank you, Mr.
So with that, I will, if there's.
There is a public hearing, so people can speak on it.
Public hearing, if there's.
Sorry, I apologize.
Is there any public comment on this item? All right, with that, well, then we'll
I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Carry on, Mr.
Thank
Versilli.
you, Mr. Grocott. Thank God somebody's here to protect us here. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the ordinance amending the City of San Carlos Municipal Code by adopting the 2007 California Building Codes with appendices and amendments.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Ahmad?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Mayor Lewis?
Yes. And then, do we also need to open the public hearing on item 8B? Okay. We'll open the public hearing on item 8B. Staff presentation?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the property owner of the 505 and Vista Avenue, without being aware that part of the property on the side of his house is actually public right-of-way, constructed a shed, as you can see in the picture, but he was not aware that that's a portion of public right-of-way, and now he has requested that the right-of-way be abandoned. Of course, he does not have any plans for now or the future use of that section of the right-of-way. We recommend to the council adoption of resolution ordering abandonment of that section of the right-of-way.
Great, thank you. Council, any questions? Go ahead, sure.
So, Parviz, one question here would be, so it was constructed on the public right-of-way without any approval? It was
Correct.
illegal? I mean, it wasn't proper?
As far as the building permit, everything, there was no need, according to building official, it's okay.
Okay, but to put it on that area was not, okay.
Correct.
Okay, I may come back to that after, if there's any public comment on, I have some thoughts on that, but I'll reserve that. Thank you.
And any other questions for staff?
I guess I had a question that we're looking at Sycamore and Vista. Are those both one-way streets going, or are they two-way streets? What is?
Yes, two-way streets.
So the staff report has suggested abandoning this public right-of-way. I'm curious, are you asserting that there is no need? It's an interesting-looking corner, that it will need no traffic improvements, the traffic will stay at that intersection at the same level, and that corner is perfectly safe?
Correct.
All right.
Okay, is there any public comment on this issue, as this is a public hearing? If you're going to speak, you're going to have to please come to the podium. Thanks.
Mr. Solano is the applicant. He's present in case you have any question for you.
Oh, great. Well, thank you very much. Great. Motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Ahmad?
We can do all in.
All in favor? You can do all in favor, sure.
All in favor?
Aye. This is just to close it.
Yeah.
We're just closing. So public comment is closed, and now we have a interested council member to Go ahead, right ahead, Councilmember Royce.
Yes, I've gone through other public right-of-ways and where we've basically have abandoned the property. However, on this property, I was quite interested in just the local aesthetics and appearance. If you're coming southbound on Sycamore or Vista, I guess it's Sycamore, it's a very much of a hairpin corner. And to me, it's a quite blocky, unattractive building. It was built as far as you could get into this corner. That, to me, doesn't look very attractive to the neighborhoods or anybody driving in the area. So my concern is I'm going back 3 years ago or 2 years ago before this was built. I think I would be very open to abandon the property. There's landscaping, there's greenery and so forth, but the way it stands now, because of what was done, I would almost opt not only not to abandon it, but to ask the structure to be removed from the public right-of-way because it is an eyesore from the neighborhood. That was what I saw. And if anybody wants to, I do have a photograph that would be available to the public or any council members that would like to see that.
I have a question then, okay, to Mr. Markari then. Assuming that's the case, is there any kind of a building standard that anyone has if they build a shed like that on the corner?
Or
Chris? I'm sorry. Mr. Valley?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Chris Valley, building official. The shed, based upon the square footage, or due to the square footage, it typically does not require a building permit. My understanding is it's less than 120, and it's out of our realm of enforcement.
So in effect, I mean, the gentleman, assuming he owned that property, he didn't realize he didn't. Right. Assuming he did, he could put it up, and there's no city control over it.
We would not issue a permit for that.
Right. So in other words, he could do it, and it'd be fine. I mean, it would be legal. Right. I only make that point, Mr. Royce, because we have no. I did pass it. I'm sorry. We have no control over if assuming it was there. So that's the only point I was making. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you. Any other comments or council questions, discussion? No? Is there a motion?
I would move that we approve abandonment as described in the resolution. Do I have to read the whole thing, Christine?
No.
No? Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ahmad?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
No.
Mayor Lewis?
Yes. All right, with that, we'll move on to item 8C, which is a public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing on item number 8C. Staff.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, again, the owners of 1380 Rosewood have requested this abandonment to give them enough setback for an addition they're planning to construct on their property. And all the property owners on that block have signed and agreed with the abandonment. And C does not have any use of this property. We recommend adoption of resolution abandoning the property.
Great. Any questions for staff?
I do, actually. The abandonment that we were talking about is a 4.5-foot wide strip. Does that go up to, or does it include part of the sidewalk?
Does not include sidewalk.
All right, so it just comes up to. What was the easement that would have been, I guess the easement required another 4.5 feet for these folks to build their house?
Apparently it helps them because if they measure from the property line is approximately 4.5 feet back of the sidewalk. But abandoning this to measure the setback measurement will go from the back of sidewalk. So we'll give them another 4.5 feet for the setback requirement.
I missed something then. I'm sorry. Your question again was where is the property lines currently? The front?
The question is, did it include the sidewalk area?
The property lines or the abandonment?
The abandonment.
So and I'm sorry, the answer was?
Abandonment does not include sidewalk.
Does not include
the sidewalk back.
So the sidewalk would still be in the right of way?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Great. Any public comment on this item? I'd like to close, entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion or motion from council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt a resolution relative to banning the 4.5 wide strip at public right-of-way on the southwesterly side of 1300 block of Rosewood Avenue.
Second.
Christine?
Councilmember Ahmad?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Mayor Lewis?
Yes. And with that, we'll move on to item number 9, unfinished business. Consideration of appointment of 2 council members to a council subcommittee to review the user utility tax financial analysis RFP responses.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Jeff Maltby, Administrative Services Director. This is a follow-up item from our last council meeting. Staff is requesting that the City Council consider appointing a subcommittee, a 2-member council subcommittee, to work with staff on reviewing responses to a RFP for financial services to study the financial aspects of a utility user tax. We would also foresee this subcommittee continuing on in its role should the utility user tax continue on, either being studied or actually being advanced towards the ballot. Staff's available to answer any questions you might have.
Councilor, other questions for staff on this item? No? Discussion? At this point, I think it may be good for us just to say who might be interested to serve on the subcommittee and then make a decision.
I'd actually be interested, Mr. Mayor.
I'd be happy to. I know great urge, but I'd be happy to help.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm also interested in doing it, and to be quite honest, and I know you've got enough to do on your plate, but I honestly think that the mayor should be one of the 2 members of this group.
Well, and I'd be happy to serve on it, to study it as well. So with that,
Rock, scissors, paper?
well, I'll tell you what, I think Bob brings a good financial compliment. I know we have 2 new council members with lots of new assignments, so if it pleases the council, why don't we have Vice Mayor Grisilli and myself attend that subcommittee meeting? Is that any other concerns or questions about that from council?
Do we need a motion, or is it just an appointment?
Motion or just an appointment?
It's a motion.
It's a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
okay. I'm sorry, is there somebody, did you want to have some public comment on this? Can we, is that something we can do? Okay,
Yes,
please approach the podium.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, I come before you this evening to object to tax and spend policies. As a resident of...
Excuse me, may we have your name, please, and city of residence?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was required.
Thank you.
Nick Pigueros, San Carlos, Walnut Street. A friend, the doctor told me the other day, Nick, if you don't take care of your weight, something's going to happen to you, and you're a relatively young man. And I told him, I didn't gain 10 inches overnight. It happened over the course of 10 years. The current budget situation that the city of San Carlos is faced with is the culmination, as the council very rightly so discussed at the last meeting, of many financial decisions that had been made over the past several years. I would encourage the council to strongly consider the impacts the utility user tax would have on the community. Currently, our residents, not just in this town, but in every organization, in every community around the country, is faced with increased costs ranging from milk to gasoline to electricity. And adding to that burden, I would say would do a disservice to the community. In fiscal year ending June 30, 2003, the public safety budget was $10.6 million, and the city contributed 4 cents per dollar of base salary to retirement. And 5 years later, fiscal year ending June 30, 2007, the public safety budget was $13.3 million, and the city paid 36 cents per dollar of base salary to retirement. On the expense side, that's a 25% increase. On the retirement side, it's 758%. I'm relatively familiar with CalPERS retirement, and I know that several things happened during that time frame. However, as as residents, both in this community and others, face job reductions, layoff notices, I think it's a responsible measure for the City Council to direct staff resources to focus on substantive cost reductions.
I'm sorry, not only are we around 2 minutes, but it should be comment on the item of appointing 2 council members to this subcommittee. So anyway, could you please conclude your comments? Thank you.
Sure. Just in conclusion, the problem didn't happen overnight, and I would encourage the council to look at the true root, which is not the residents for utility user tax.
Great, thank you very much. And with that, did we say we need a motion? Or?
It would be appropriate for there to be a motion on this item, yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint yourself and Vice Mayor Grisilli to a subcommittee to analyze the user utility tax.
I'd second that.
All those in favor signify by
Is there
saying
any
aye.
discussion?
Go ahead. Is there any discussion?
May we have some discussion?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Relative
I've been
to the-
waiting.
Relative to the
sorry.
appointment,
Yes.
of us, not to the, I don't know that, I mean, I only say that, Mr. Grocott,
Yeah.
in fact, we're going to be talking about this for a long time
I
to come.
know, I know. Just as I know it takes a lot of courage for someone to come up to the podium and speak. It's not easy to do, and I would like to support the fellow who did speak. Number
I'm
one,
sorry,
and I know.
I just
Mr.
want to
Mayor,
interrupt to say, when I say that, it has nothing to do with supporting or not supporting, and this is not about whether or not I support comments or not support comments. It's just in the interest of the item and the 2 minutes. So I'm just sorry. I don't want to be any bad light shed here.
No, totally fair.
Okay.
I understand. But I'm just saying, I know it's uncomfortable, so I just wanted to say that. And I just wanted to comment that the reason I didn't put myself forward is because I'm not much in favor of the utility tax, and I'm not much in favor of spending a lot of staff time looking at it and so forth. All due respect to to the mayor and the vice mayor being on the committee, I'm not opposed to that, but I am not personally going to show a lot of support for this measure.
Okay.
So,
any other discussion? Christine?
Councilmember Ahmad?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
And we will now move on to new business. Consideration of amending the San Carlos Municipal Code, Chapter 15.56, flood damage prevention.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this municipal code has been in effect since approximately 1980, when the city of San Carlos joined the federal insurance policy. From time to time, every few years, FEMA adds or modifies the requirements. After Katrina, FEMA has been working really hard to come with new requirements, new regulations to impose on all properties nationwide, basically to reduce FEMA's cost. That's what it's all about. And this time what they have done, some of the requirements of, as far as elevation certificate and flood proofing, they put it in the uniform building code. So that way nobody misses. When it's in the building code, it's going to be complied with. And so based on that, the building officials from now on, they have to monitor this, and inspectors have to know what they're inspecting in the field. If, for example, basement has to be waterproof, they have to know the plans. They have to know how the waterproofing is installed. They have to document that and put in the file that this area was constructed with waterproofing, and certify that, put it in the file. Of course, the developers, engineers, and architects have to do the same. So all the responsibility is not on the inspectors. So building official can require the developers, architects, and engineers to certify the same. So everything will be documented when FEMA inspectors come and look at the property that was built in the flood zone. All those documentations that are required is going to be in the file. So basically, this is the amendment of the ordinance to add the new FEMA requirements.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for staff?
I have a couple.
Please.
If I might. curious about is just and I think you've hit on it a little bit in your report, and I thank you for that. But just curious from either yourself or Mr. Valley, how this might change the machinations of actually what goes on from what we were doing before to what we might be doing after we pass this, which, this is sort of just form here. We kind of have to pass this if we want to stay under FEMA's coverage. But how might the machinations of what the building department does change? Is it going to increase their workload and so forth? Or what's required when someone submits a set of plans? You've kind of alluded to that, but if you could go into a little more detail.
The first step in the process when someone submits an application, as you know, it goes to planning and building, public works. So all departments are going to be involved. So the first thing is when the application comes, every department, I've indicated that to Mr. Valley and others, we have to look, is the property in the flood zone? So somebody is going to catch it. If it is, right away, all the requirements that are FEMA requirements, is the building official or public works director or planning manager, they all put those conditions. Basically, the conditions are you cannot build in flood zone, the finished floor elevation has to be above floodplain. If you're building a garage, everything in there has to be waterproof. So the first step is somebody in one of the departments will catch that this property is in the flood zone, and then we'll go from there. Up to now, it's been just public works director determining this is in the flood zone and putting a condition that the architect or the engineer have to certify the first floor, finished floor elevation is above floodplain. They've been doing that, and we put it in the file and done. From now on, what is required, after the first floor is completed, the engineer or architect has to certify again that now this was constructed according to the plans at the finished floor elevation above floodplain, and the inspectors have to require that. Building official has to get those documents and put them in the file.
Okay, and then two more questions, if I may. You said when the FEMA inspectors come, and I would like to know when do they get involved, when do they come? And if I can just throw out my second question, then you can answer it as you please. I'm curious what this may or may not do to the city's liability in the case of a flood happens and properties are damaged, property is damaged. I'm thinking, quite frankly, of 1000 El Camino, because we did notify them that they're in the FEMA flood zone and said you have to build to certain standards. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of.
This actually, Mr. Valley had that question regarding liability, and we sent that question to City Attorney, Mr. Lanzone, and he indicated there are no city liability. So that's basically from the City Attorney.
Okay. And when you said when the FEMA inspectors come, when do they get involved in this?
They usually come from my past experience, approximately every 5 years, but from now on, they're putting more emphasis on this. They were here about 6 months ago. They went through all our files. They actually went through, drove El Camino Industrial Road. They found every building that was built or was just recently built in the flood zone. They brought the addresses and they wanted the files. What did we do? Did we require all of this? So documented all of that. So from now on, I estimate they will probably come every other year. They want to make sure everybody's compliant.
But not necessarily during construction. For instance, like with 1000 El Camino, they won't be doing an inspection. That'll be up to us.
They've done that already.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Is there a motion on this item?
I'll move to approve the ordinance as written.
Excuse me, I think it's introduced.
Introduce.
Oh, to introduce the ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Russilli.
Well, I'm right on this.
Number 1397.
Number 1397. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, do we have a second?
Yes. Yeah. Councilmember Ahmad?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Mayor Lewis?
Yes. And with that, we go back to item 6B, which we moved from the consent calendar, which is adopting the minutes of February 26, which was pulled by Councilmember Royce.
So on item, under new business 7B, about 6 paragraphs down, I discussed some of the components of the utility tax. It mentions the tiered rate, but there are two other components that I recommended that we make sure that we consider. One would be the term, whether or not it's a permanent tax or it's a 5 to 7 year term to the tax was one thing I discussed. And the third thing I discussed was exercising caution if the proceeds from the utility tax were to hire full-time employment for the city, that there would be a concern that if it was temporary, when the tax went away, that we would have to let those people go. So if we could add that to my comments.
Any objection to adding those to the minutes? Any other discussion or motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the minutes with the amendments proposed by Councilman Royce.
Second.
Christine?
Councilmember Ahmad?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Mayor Lewis?
Yes. And that brings us to item 6F, which was the adopting the plans and specifications for Burton Park Play Area renovation and authorizing the city clerk to call for bids. Do you want to?
Yes, I was just, I had remembered this item being on the agenda before and us discussing it, giving some direction. And so mostly I don't necessarily have a question about it's about 6.3% increase. If you could address that, that would be great. But just if you could also address some of the comments that we made and how maybe those were followed through on.
And just to that point, I had a just similar question because we had, some discussions, some back and forth. I think we threw out some ideas and things to consider. And so I was also curious to just hear, had anything changed since we all talked before we approved it, to go for this. So if you could just address that, it would be great.
Great,
Please,
thank
Director
you.
White.
As far as the increase in cost, it's just reflective of additional features we put on, extra time it took to do the planning and stuff. We really listened to the community, as you know, and kept talking to the designer, and so they need a little extra money, and then some of the things we put on, just, and we, I'm always trying to under-promise and over-deliver, but the local expert, the resident expert here thinks it might come in under the bid. But this is the estimate we got from the designer, so we're going with that. But Portuguese thinks it could come underneath that. And we're doing a good time of year now before we get into the busy season for contractors, so we're hoping to get a good price. We did hear several pieces of input from this body as well as the Parks and Rec Commission, and of course before that, lots of people in the community. Specifically for the council, some of the things that came up in our previous meeting was the question about would the concert area remain, and yes, it would. The existing water fountain just being moved over slightly, and that's where we're putting the water spray feature. Are we losing square footage? Mayor Lewis had that question, and we're not losing square footage as far as the footprint or the play structure. The play structure is actually much more comprehensive than the old play structure was. And there was discussion from both Mayor Lewis and Councilmember Grocott on climbing structures. And I'm happy to say that we have in the, and now it's in relation to the school age structure, there are 5 different pieces of climbing apparatus built into the structure. And if you'd like, I could show you a picture of that.
It would be great if you have one. It would be great. Yeah.
And I'm going to, give me a second to increase the size. Okay, I'll do this with the mouse. We have a climbing wall right here for the kids to get up into that area. We've got this helix-looking, twisted ladder-type thing there. We've got the ladder thing there. We've got Back here, and I'll show you a different view in a second, is another piece of climbing structure, and the one right behind it. So let me show you the different view. And I knew this was important to the council from the previous discussion, so we made sure that it was included in the structure. Let me blow this up again. I appreciate your patience.
Can we dim the lights so that we can see the...
This structure here is a climbing structure. It's two-sided, and you'll see kids climbing. I'll show you a better picture in just a second, and I'll show you a much better picture of this structure here that's like a climbing tower. That blue figure that was a climbing tower is a young lady on the right, so that's built into it also. And then I'll show you the other thing that I was talking about. I'm still going to that, but I want to show you this too.
Is that the same height as the one that is on our structure?
I'm sorry.
Is this one a similar height to the one? It's hard to tell scale on the.
Oh, right. It's 6 feet tall.
Okay.
And you can see how it wraps around. It's called a corner climber. That's the one that was next to the slide that looked like just a flat piece of green. That's in actuality what it is. And let me show you the two-sided thing. And that's the one that you couldn't see very well, but you can see kids can climb on both sides. So we end up with 5 different climbers, if you will, on the structure.
Any other questions? No. And is, again, height-wise, is ours that double version or was it a single version of that?
Ours will be that exact one right there.
Great. Anybody else? Thank you very much for coming to explain that. I think it was just important to see that some of the changes that were reflected since we talked, so I appreciate you being here.
No, anytime. And
we have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt item 6F on the consent calendar.
Second.
Councilmember Ahmad?
Yes.
Councilmember Grisilli?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
If I may, I just comment. It was nice to see an ad in the paper showing folks who had contributed so far to this playground.
Great.
It's a nice effort. And we need more.
And we still need more money?
How shy are we, Barry?
right now, we're about $90,000 shy. Actually, the fundraising is produced more than the original goal, but then when the price went up, the goal went up.
Yeah.
So we're still banging away. We've got some fundraisers coming up at Harmony Frozen Yogurt, and we're planning an event, and there's some other things that will be going on. And we're still contacting people, and we still have naming opportunities available. So thank you for the entree. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you very much, Director Weiss. And with that, that concludes tonight's meeting, so we will adjourn the City Council meeting.
And our next meeting is a retreat. Is
Our
that
next
right?
meeting is a strategic planning retreat on March 18th, Tuesday, beginning at 6 a.m. How can we make it start on that?
Approximately 8 o'clock. And then I should make note that the meeting on the 24th has been canceled.
Right.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. 9 o'clock. Meeting adjourned. This is my favorite part.